you're going to have a system or develop a system that is anywhere close to workable, you got to study what you've been doing already. The first thing that you see, number one, when you go to Algeria, you see and you begin to think, and you already know your environment. You know, because the boss man been putting stuff on you, he done gave you a serious education. And if you're leaving the country and going places that now you going and you getting a place to rest, recuperate, think, and strategize. That's something that other people didn't do. But even if you watched enough TV, one thing in movies, the scene was the same in every movie. The good guys, well, they call them the bad guys. But whether it's Jesse James, whoever it was, Bonnie and Clyde, it doesn't make any difference. We got one more. We want to retire. I want to go to California and buy a ranch. Right? We got one more big job. Does anybody remember that? They call them the bad guys. We call them the good guys. They got one more job they're going to pull. Right? And this job is going to get us over. Well, I had seen all those movies too, so I incorporated in my own plan. When my mind tells me that, one more job. That's it. No more job. You gotta have the money already ready. You gotta have everything already ready. So you already incorporating into your whole life the mechanism to where you don't never have to say that. And when you say that, you said, that's it. That's the sign, that's the signal. I'm gone. But not only are you gone, why are you gone? You're gone because everybody that said that, and half the time it's true. You know what I mean? In real life, you go and spend enough time in the pen, man, I had this life, so wasted a lot of it, running around. Then I said, now you know what to do. You know what to do. You said, man, I'll just pull one more job. I'll take that money. I'll put it in a package. I'll go buy a ranch in California. I'll bring my wife and kids out there. I'll marry my old girlfriend that I ran around with. And we'll change my name and live happily ever after. The only thing is, that never happened. Only one or two cases in all of those movies, somebody slipped away, and what do? Never, when you get to that point, and this is a self-saving mechanism, this is something you develop yourself. When you get to the point that you say, this is the last job. This is the last ship. That's the time when it's time for you to go. But time for you to really go. It's not Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. You're not going to run away and go down to Bolivia. That was a big movie at that time. You're not going to go down to Bolivia and have to rob to live. Right? And you know the way they got Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid is that they sent a first day in Australia, not Australia, Argentina. And then they sent a letter back. So the old Pinkertons is watching the police, the doggone mailbox, the post office, right? would send letters to. And they get it. There's a stamp. There's everything right there. So they put heat on them in Argentina. They have to run over to Bolivia. And in Bolivia, they get washed up. Okay, so that may not sound like much of a model for you to study your pattern off of, but it's not bad. Why? Because of all the patterns, historical patterns that you've had access to up until that time shows that. So that old saying, man, the white man got you on board. In other words, the white man, power structure got you on the chessboard. And he's doing 1, 2, 3, 4, and eventually you're gonna run out of plays. It's something that always has happened. Why? Because he's got the doggone board, and he's in charge of the chessboard, and you're just a piece on the chessboard. Well, that's when keeping score comes in. Because you can also figure out what your enemy is going to do. He's got a scoreboard too that he's watching. And he's thinking, we got these niggas 9-0. 9-0, and they ain't got that. We got everything set up the way we want it, and can't win. I don't want to be long-winded, so I put the word out. Man, I'm going red China. I'm going, I take my friends up in the hills that I knew was funny. Yeah, man. Da-da-da-da-da-da. So boss man got your plan together because everybody with him, you know. Therefore, it's going to be easy to get away. And you're going to play it out just like he got it laid out. You're going to act and perform just like what you would do if you were really at the psychological shape that you were pretending to be in. That's why we're here right now and we're a success. That's why we discombobulated Boss Man, because Boss Man never thought, even to this day, looking right down our throats and listening over and over to what we tell him, it's not possible. But it's historically not only possible, but history demands it. History demands the rise and fall of empires. It demands it. That's what's in the Quran, you see. The ebb and flow of empires. In that process, things are going to change. His goal is to develop a behavior pattern for you where it is suicidal and self-defeating. That's why his activity against people that kept doing the same thing all the time, whether it's Bonnie and Clyde or whoever, they got an old raggedy system, and if you follow their playbook, you're going to be just like Bonnie and Clyde. So you have to have another plan. But there's times when it has to look exactly like Bonnie and Clyde's plan. You have to play it to where, hey, yeah, we're just heading along. You got a schedule to go over the cliff at 1:30, so you check your watch so that you'll be headed to go over the cliff at 1:30, just like Boss Man had it. The only thing is, you might have a parachute, or you might have whatever it is. You got to be willing to carry it out and follow through. And this is the thing; these are things that you remember. What do I look like? When I say I mean us. What does the battle space look like? What does all this thing, what does the whole thing look like? And if you look at it in 1970 or 71, it would be, this is all over. The Negro is finished. Right? So if it looks like that to you, then it sure looks like that to them, because they get a shot at the Negro that haven't had no practice in revolution. It's it's unfair, but that's the way life is. And the Negro himself has every habit that would be suicidal. So if you looked at the Black Panther Party thought that every woman was there to service the men. That's the way the Negroes thought, and that's the way they acted. It was no serious ethics. I told a story one time about a lady went to pick up a brother to go to a rally. They're supposed to speak in a while. He chased her around the room, and she knocked on the door. He pulled on in and chased her around the room for half an hour. I guess he just got tired. He couldn't catch her, to have sex. That was immorality. Okay. So it don't take no whole lot of sense. So therefore, they fill up the movement with women. And we take some of our biggest leaders. Maybe they send someone from Canada, and they're talking black, and they're in New York, and you're in hiding, so you need a woman who's a nice-looking lady, right? Boom. It's just normal. It's just now, if the Negro's not thinking like that, he's not going to be able to protect himself. That's why what the system did to Negroes was basically unfair. The first thing I told the brothers when I went to Algeria, now I done left here tussling with Boss Man. I done developed the habits that it takes for a revolutionary. Before I left Oakland, I was in the hills running every day, but I was lucky because I used to run with my friends over boxes, so it was a natural habit. Get out early in the morning, fresh air, and do something regular. And that was a habit. So whenever things got tough, you say, I'm headed back to the hills. So that means after a long time of partying and da-da-da-da-da, you say, if I keep this up another fact, this wasn't me to say it. One of my friends, well, at that time he was a competitor. Him, my best friend, and one of his best friends the car together, and, we snort and blow. And I got to blow at that time. Actually, it was one of the Ward brothers. Actually, it was Willie Ward and Zolly King. So what, and this guy, he died a couple of years ago. And I wanted to tell him, and I had a package from here. This is recently. I had a package of money I was going to give him. He died before I could give it to him. And I remember everything about it. We was in front of the California Hotel. This is where a lot of stuff was. And so my partner was in the, anyway, there's four of us in the car. Big, pretty Broham, da-da-da-da. So my friend, Kerry, we hanging out with the other side of town crew. So I looks over, we start blowing everything, so I look at my partner and say, you got any more of them things, the packages of them things? He said, yeah. I'm telling you, this is like magic. So Willie Ward said, he's a competitor. Ward brothers. He says, if you keep that up, you won't be captain of the ship. Now these guys had all kind of weaknesses, but what he said about that was 100% accurate. Unbelievable. If you keep that up, in other words, you won't be captain of the ship. In other words, that thing, the cocaine will be the captain. The next time people saw me at the nightclub, I had a tight t-shirt on, I was running the hills and lifting weights. He was right. He was 100% right. If you keep that up, you won't be captain of the ship. In other words, all the stuff that you have, you do that, all niggas get to a point where they get where you are now, they get big, they get loose. I went right to our spot, I locked up all the cocaine, because I used to leave, just for everybody to come in, almost get what they need, which they happily did, I mean, you could imagine if you got a stash house and a cabinet full of blow. And so I locked all the blow up, went right to the hills the next morning, and back to the iron pile. And it was a lifesaver. It was the lifesaver. Now, the same thing when I'm in Algeria. I'm in Algeria ready for revolution. I tell the brothers, out of all the brothers there, there's one of the brothers still here alive. You can check with Sekou Dinga. He's the only brother that would go out with me in the morning for physical fitness. Like we played one-on-one basketball. Now, that's gonna put you in shape. If you ain't been in shape, that's gonna do it. So we played one-on-one at least 4 or 5 days a week, basketball, physical fitness. We're the only ones that instituted in Algeria, the whole group of Negroes that left here. Nobody had their program was go down to the Rue de Douche Mourad and buy hashish and everything. That's what they did. That was the program. And I'm coming there ready for revolution, and I'm telling them, just like the brother told me, if you keep that up, you won't be captain of the ship. the stuff y'all doing when I got to Algeria, a revolution. I said, you ain't gonna have no revolution doing all that stuff. Chasing cutie pies, and another thing that they had. Now in '72, when I came back from South America, and I was in Tanzania, and I was talking with Pete O'Neill. He took over the party after Eldridge Cleveland. He said, man, it was pussy got us thrown out of Algeria. Not all that, they don't like Arabs, all that stuff. I mean, blacks, it's not it. What I remember with my own thinking, one of the people who was a real revolutionary, but he was colored too. He was telling me about, man, the ones that catch, the ones that be wearing them veils, man, and they be, when you hook them up, they be ooh and all of that. You know, of course the Negro had a little extra he put in there, I guess. And I said, these niggas is crazy. I didn't know a whole lot about Islam, but I know that this is in the city now, in Algeria, the city, like, you know, they wear like 40% of the people wore niqab. Let's say 30% of the people wore niqab and the others wore a little bit of something. And then let's say it was 25 or 30% the dress French style with mini skirts and all of that. But even if they had mini dresses on, there in a Muslim country, you couldn't do nothing with them girls. That was the style. But that wasn't like the girl wearing a mini dress here. But that was an Algerian woman wearing a mini dress with Algerian customs. The point I'm getting at is that like they didn't get a chance for longevity over here, they didn't get a real good chance of longevity over there either. Because of the customs they brought with them. So the Islam that I had at that time was more colorized Islam. But I did know this. You can't do that and gonna have no revolution nowhere. You can't be